All right, so today I want to talk to you about oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and the fact that you're not sitting in front of the refrigerator eating cupcakes and bonbons and having lots of carbs or sugary foods or pastas or breads or crackers or chips. And yet you have some insulin resistance, you crash after a meal, your fasting glucose is always high, you can't lose the weight around the midsection, or you're putting on belly fat or weight around the hips, and you are frustrated. And I had a post the other day talking about oxidative stress and creating your free radicals and being able to balance that with antioxidants. And really what I want to talk to you about is this flow chart that Dr. Bob Miller created. It's called the NADPH steel chart, or inflammation chart. And it really talks about oxidative stress being created by so many things in the environment nowadays, that when you're overwhelmed with these environmental triggers and you combine that with your genetic susceptibilities, you are not going to contain the level of free radicals that are bombarding your system. As a result, you'll have decreased amount of nutrients available that would have otherwise been used for other things. And as a result, your body decides, okay, what's most important here, and shortchanges some of the less important, although very, very important for your overall functioning, less important in terms of just existing and being able to control your body in certain things that are primary in terms of body temperature, respiratory rate, pulse, being able to at least maintain those basics first, and then reproductive health, exercise, new neurons, detoxification sometimes take a back seat. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about this NOx enzyme. And NOx is NADPH oxidase. And what it does is it helps to produce superoxide radicals and hydrogen peroxide radicals. Now, antioxidants are good, but free radicals aren't necessarily bad. We need free radicals in order to stimulate an immune response, in order to activate the troops, in order to sound the alarms and get the messages from one place to the other and say, hey, we're under siege, or there's a stressor, we need to support the immune system, we need to send new red blood cells, we need to support white blood cells, we need to put chemical messengers in there to create a reaction so that we can deal with this stressor and maintain homeostasis. And at the end of the day, that's what's going wrong. You don't have necessarily an adrenal fatigue problem. You have a mitochondrial cellular fatigue problem. You're not able to manage the basics, and as a result, you crash in the middle of the day, you don't have focus, you can't lose that extra body fat or belly fat, you have brain fog, you don't handle your stressors very well, your temperature is irregular, so you're cold when you should be hot, or you're hot when you should be cold, you have panic attacks, you stand up, you get lightheaded. How many of us have these? We have a lot of these things. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you about some of the major things that impact that enzyme. So things like glutamate. So I talked about this earlier, natural flavors and all of the MSG that are in our foods, that can really stimulate that NOx enzyme, and that's going to create a lot of free radicals. Smoking and fumes and chemicals and gases, iron overload, that's a whole other video on its own. Oxalate's a whole other video on its own. Histamines, and what's really interesting about histamines is histamines we get from stress, we get from environmental danders and pets and pollens, from foods, from alcohol, from your immune system. It stimulates the NOx enzyme, which stimulates your hydrogen and peroxide and your superoxide, stimulating your mast cells, stimulating histamine. So histamine stimulates its own production and can create a vicious cycle. And that's a real main problem. Some people will take DIO enzymes, or they'll take some methyl support, but they're not looking at some of these other things that get depleted that you need to look at. And that's what this video is for. You have other things like EMFs, dopamine. So dopamine could be from chocolates, dopamine could be from caffeine, nicotine, all of those things. Too much amino acids, things like that. Sulfites, homocysteine. So these things are going to stimulate your NOx enzyme, which is a good thing. You want to mount an immune response and come back to normal. But what happens is you have this thing called NADPH. And NADPH, what it does is it helps to support that reaction. But as a result, NADPH is now stolen away and you don't have the right,
HDMI3.
excuse me, she gets really finicky. Then you don't have the raw materials that would be used for heme production. So being able to carry your your red blood cells and oxygen to your cells to make ATP, or recycling your glutathione, your body's major antioxidant, or being able to make ATP in another reaction, or being able to make your neurotransmitters so you don't have brain fog and you're able to mount a stress response and you're able to be calm when you need to be calm. All those things are going to happen. So what would I recommend? I mean, NADPH is an amazing new piece of information of the puzzle, and you would want to know your genetic susceptibilities to that. You would also want to know what are your major contributors to NOx. I mean, do you have problems with chemical exposures and high glutamate and iron issues and oxalates and histamines and EMFs? And are there allergens that are constantly stimulating you, or xenobiotics, or infections, or mold? All of these things you can eliminate or address one by one in your environment, and that doesn't require a pill or a medication. That could be really, really helpful. But what I would want to do is a genetic test to see where are some of these weak links that we can support. And NADPH support can be really helpful as well. So there are NAD plus supplements that could be helpful, but you don't want to reductionistically just take something and expect it to fix something. You have to put all the puzzle pieces together. So hopefully that made sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to this video. I do consults to determine if you're suffering with something that I think I could help figure out. Where are you with your health? Why are you not getting better? What have you tried? And most importantly, where do you want to go? And if I feel I can help you, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. And even if we don't end up working together, you'll get some really good pieces of the puzzle information about it, so that you can now direct your next effort or your next marching orders around that immediate action step. So hopefully that made a lot of sense. Look forward to ending your mitochondrial fatigue nightmare. Have an awesome day.